What's up, guys? It's time for me to make my 2021 NFL Playoff Predictions. So let's get to it. In the AFC East, I have the Buffalo Bills winning this division. They have the best QB in this division. Josh Allen, at this point, is better than Mac Jones. He's better than Tua Tagovailoa and Zach Wilson. In second place, I got the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick went all in and spent $232 million in free agency. Not only that, but he drafted Mac Jones in the first round. This is the first time Bill Belichick drafted a QB in round one. I expect the Patriots to get into the playoffs as a wild card. In third place, I have the Miami Dolphins. This team will be much better than they were last season. However, they play a tough schedule. They're in a tough division. I expect them to compete for a playoff spot, but compete for a playoff spot, but I'm not sure if they'll get in. And in last place, I got the Jets. Zach Wilson flashed some potential in the preseason, but this team isn't close to contending. Let's shift our attention over to the AFC North. So in the AFC North, I have the Cleveland Browns taking home first place. They have the best offensive line. They have the best running tandem in the National Football League with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Baker Mayfield in the last 9 games of the season threw 19 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions. This is the first time Baker Mayfield doesn't have to learn a new offense. In his first year, he had Hugh Jackson as his head coach. In his second season, he had Freddie Kitchens as his head coach. Last year, Kevin Stefanski provided the necessary stability Baker needed in order to succeed. I think the Cleveland Browns are a legit Super Bowl contender. In second place, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, there are some question marks with Baltimore. Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins, all of those guys are currently injured. J.K. Dobbins went down. But Lamar Jackson is 30-40 in the NFL against QBs not named Patrick Mahomes. This kid is unbelievable. He has a great winning percentage. Baltimore typically finds a way to make the playoffs and compete. I think Baltimore will get the final playoff spot in the AFC. In third place, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like what they did in the draft. They brought in Najee Harris. James Conner wasn't it last season. Now they have a bona fide stud running back. They also drafted Pat Freiermuth at the tight end spot. They have good weapons and a good defense, but I don't trust this offensive line, and Big Ben is probably on his last season. And finally, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is recovering off that devastating injury he suffered. This will probably be Zach Taylor's final year in Cincy. In the AFC South, I have the Tennessee Titans winning this division. They made the best move of the offseason when they decided to trade for Julio Jones. Not only that, but they have A.J. Brown. They have Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill has been a borderline top 10 QB since he became the Tennessee Titans starting quarterback. I think the Titans will win this division. In second place, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Initially, I had this team as a playoff contender, but looking at it now, I don't see this team making the playoffs. They have a brutal schedule during the first 8 weeks of the season. They have to play the Seahawks, the Rams, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Titans again, and the 49ers. Not to mention, towards the tail end of the season, they play Buffalo, the Patriots, the Buccaneers, and the Cardinals. I think Indy is going to have a tough time making the postseason. Carson Wentz is still recovering off an injury he suffered in high school. Not only that, but he tested positive for COVID. Carson Wentz in Philly proved to be fragile, not only physically, but emotionally as well. And Indy has a tough schedule, so I don't have them getting in. In third place, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence has the ability to lift this franchise as the number 1 overall pick. However, I don't expect him to take this team to the playoffs in his first year. Maybe he can do it after he gets a couple of years under his belt. I think he'll have some big flashes. Jacksonville will be entertaining to watch, but they're not a playoff contender. And finally, the biggest mess in the National Football League, we got the Houston Texans. This team is a disaster. David Culley will be gone after this season. Nick Caserio doesn't know what he's doing. Deshaun Watson wants out. He's not going to play this year. The Texans are a mess. In the AFC West, there's no explanation needed. I have the Kansas City Chiefs taking home first place. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. This is the most explosive offense in the National Football League. I expect them to win the AFC West once again. In second place, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a team that was able to win 7 games last year with one of the worst offensive lines and one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Now they bring in Brandon Staley, who was the architect of the number 1 defense last year with the Los Angeles Rams. I think Brandon Staley will have success early on. Not only that, but they added 2 offensive linemen. They drafted Rashawn Slater in the first round, and they signed Corey Linsley. Justin Herbert had a phenomenal rookie season last year. I expect him to build off of that. I think the Chargers get into the playoffs. In third place, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't trust this defense. They lost 3 offensive linemen. They have some nice pieces on the offensive side of the ball, but this team typically struggles in December, and that's when you need to play your best football. And in last place, I have the Denver Broncos. They upgraded at the quarterback position with Teddy Bridgewater. That being said, Teddy B is still the worst QB in this division. Pat Mahomes is better, Justin Herbert is better, and Derek Carr is better. I do like their defense, but that won't be enough to get to the playoffs. Let's shift our attention over to the NFC. So in the NFC East, I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this division. I don't trust any of these teams. Philadelphia has Nick Sirianni as their head coach, who I don't believe in. It seems like the Philadelphia organization is trying to get Jalen Hurts out of town. The Washington football team has Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starter. He's been in the league for 16 years and hasn't made the playoffs. And with the Giants, they have Daniel Jones. When they took Daniel Jones with the 6th overall pick back in 2019, my head exploded. I couldn't believe that selection. And Daniel Jones has been a fumble/interception machine. So I have to go with the Cowboys solely based off the fact that they have the best QB in this division. I don't trust anything else, but Dak Prescott is the best quarterback. That's why I have the Cowboys in first place. In second place, I have the Washington football team. I actually think that they have a good roster, but I don't trust Fitzpatrick. In third place, I have the Giants. Saquon Barkley is currently recovering off the injury he suffered last year. As I said before, I don't trust Daniel Jones, and this offensive line is a mess. Finally, I have Philly, first-year head coach. It seems like they want to get Jalen Hurts out of town. They come in last place. In the NFC North, I have the Green Bay Packers in first place. I expect Aaron Rodgers to have a big season this year and the Packers to win this division. In second place, I have Minnesota. I like the pieces they have. Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen are one of the best duos in the National Football League. I don't trust their defense, which is a big concern. In third place, I have the Chicago Bears. I have no idea why Andy Dalton is the week 1 starter over Justin Fields. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are definitely on the hot seat. I expect Justin Fields to eventually become the starter, but this team is in for a rough season. This offensive line appears to be a bottom 5 unit in the NFL. And in last place, I have the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell wants to bite the kneecaps off. Jared Goff got traded after a bad season in Los Angeles. This team is in rebuild mode. Let's shift our attention to the NFC South. So in the NFC South, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this division. Last year, the Saints actually won this division, and Tampa went on to go win the Super Bowl. They brought back all of their starters. Tom Brady's now in his second year in the system. Before last season, I said that Tampa Bay would have more success in their second year together. Well, they won the Super Bowl last year, so they're going to be a good team. In second place, I have the New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston will be a massive downgrade from Drew Brees. Not only that, but Michael Thomas is going to be out for the first 6 weeks of the season, and Hurricane Ida could potentially derail their season. That being said, I trust Sean Payton more than Matt Rule and Arthur Smith. In third place, I got the Carolina Panthers. Sam Darnold will be a much better quarterback in Carolina as opposed to New York, but I don't know if he can be a franchise quarterback, if he's the long-term answer in Carolina. I think he can be a decent, competent player, but I don't expect him to turn this franchise around, and I don't know how long he'll be the starter in Carolina. Finally, we got the Atlanta Falcons. This team is in a rebuild mode. I like the pieces they have on the offensive side of the ball, but they have a first-year head coach and a defense that needs a lot of work. In the NFC West, I have the San Francisco 49ers going from worst to first in this division. I think this team will be the biggest. This team will win the NFC West because last year they had 31 players on the injury reserve. Now they get Jimmy Garoppolo back, George Kittle back, Deebo Samuel is coming back, Nick Bosa is back. This is a team, when last healthy, went to Super Bowl 54 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I expect them to be a competitive team this year. In second place, I have the LA Rams. They made a huge move, trading for Matt Stafford. He's a massive upgrade over Jared Goff. I'm not sure if I necessarily buy into all the Super Bowl hype, but this team will make the playoffs. In third place, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson always finds a way to get this team into the playoffs. I expect him to do that again. And finally, we have the Arizona Cardinals. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury. This defense still has some issues in their secondary, but I think Kyler Murray can take them to the promised land. So in the AFC, I have the Chiefs as my number 1 seed, the Browns as my number 2 seed, the Bills as my number 3 seed, the Titans as my number 4 seed, and as my 5th seed, I have the LA Chargers. As my 6th seed, I have the New England Patriots, and as my 7th seed, I had a 3-way race between the Baltimore Ravens, the Miami Dolphins, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I ultimately went with the Baltimore Ravens as my 7th seed. In the NFC, I have Tampa Bay getting the 1st seed, Green Bay getting the number 2 seed, the 49ers winning the NFC West, the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East. As my first wild card, I have the LA Rams. As my second wild card, I have the Seattle Seahawks. And as my 7th seed, it came down to 3 teams, the Arizona Cardinals, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New Orleans Saints. But I ultimately went with the Arizona Cardinals. So in the wild card round of the playoffs, we have the Cleveland Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go with Cleveland. In my next AFC wildcard matchup, we have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Patriots. I'm going to go with the Bills. And in my final matchup in the AFC, we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to pick the Chargers in the upset. In the NFC, I have the Packers beating the Cardinals, the Seahawks pulling off a stunning upset, beating the San Francisco 49ers. And I also have the Los Angeles Rams beating the Dallas Cowboys. In the divisional round of the playoffs, I think Kansas City beats LA due to the fact that Patrick Mahomes has a bye to prepare for this team. Kansas City typically doesn't lose at home. The Chargers are still a young football team. Brandon Staley's in his first year. I think the Chiefs advance to the AFC Championship game once again. I think Cleveland beats Buffalo. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen were in the same draft class. I think Baker Mayfield's going to show Josh Allen why he was the first overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. In the NFC, I think Tampa Bay matches up really well with Seattle. I have them going back to the NFC title game. I also think Green Bay will beat Los Angeles. Aaron Rodgers has owned Matt Stafford for the last 10 years. He beat him when he was a member of the Detroit Lions. Stafford is a great quarterback, but this team is in their first year together. I think it's going to take time in order for them to be a legit Super Bowl contender. So that leaves us with the Chiefs and the Browns in the AFC Championship game. And in this matchup, I'm going to shock you guys. I know Kansas City is the favorite. They're at home. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. They have the most explosive offense. But I think Cleveland has the recipe to beat this team. They have the best running back duo. They can keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. They have the best offensive line. Baker, towards the tail end of the season, started to play like a top 10 quarterback. I believe Cleveland has a better overall roster. They made the necessary moves they needed on the defensive side of the ball. I think Cleveland advances to their first ever Super Bowl. In the NFC, we have a rematch of last season's NFC title game between the Bucs and the Packers. I think Tampa Bay has Green Bay's number. I think they'll advance to Super Bowl 56. So that leaves us with the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Super Bowl 56. This is going to be a good one. I trust Tampa Bay more than Cleveland. I think Cleveland is going to have a tougher time moving the ball on the Tampa Bay defense as opposed to the Tampa Bay offense moving the football against the Cleveland defense. Tom Brady will go back-to-back. This is the first time in NFL history that a Super Bowl contender in the salary cap era has brought back all of their starters. Tampa Bay didn't lose Levante David or Shaq Barrett. They also were able to keep all of their coaches on that coaching staff. I can't bet against Tom Brady. I think this is going to be a really good season. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe.